Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Susanne, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you 3 shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's go. And we are back. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so grateful that you are here today. Today's guest is Rick Tjia. We connected online, as always, after writing a LinkedIn article, and we had a great conversation about what we see as an opportunity within the performing arts. So, short introduction of Rick. He is best known for his career as a dancer with La Human Steps and as a talent scout with Cirque du Soleil casting. Rick has worked professionally in classical ballet, jazz, modern, contemporary dance, hip hop, tap, and tango. His dance career brought him to tour and perform in over 25 countries and 100 different cities, and his casting career to many more. He also worked in the TV movie industry in LA as a dancer, actor, and producer. Today, he is the co-founder and CEO of a cloud company called Choreography Online, and has also added to his portfolio and services the International Online Dance Competition and Online Diploma in Choreography program with the UK's iPath, and in partnership with Launchpad 6 and Gig to Gig, is currently developing Jammer Gig, premium online casting and audition management software. That is quite the bio. So I am so thrilled to have this conversation because Rick and I are so aligned in how we're seeing the performing arts, what the opportunities are, and what we're all working on. Without no further ado, here's our conversation. Rick, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for booking in so quickly. I think this was the fastest turnaround I've ever had in any kind of guest bringing on the show that I've booked within like 3 days. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I figured I had to do it fast because my schedule can fill up really fast. So I wanted to get it into the calendar.
And you're also walking your talk. I remember in our first conversation, remember how we talked about people not getting back or taking so long to make a decision or not making decisions at all. And well, you're really good at making fast decisions.
Yeah, I think it's something that I learned that it's not something that happened overnight, but after years and years and years of experience and watching other people too, I think people need to understand that not making a decision is actually making a decision. And so you're just allowing basically life to make that decision for you. So it's not necessarily a good thing because you basically, the decision is being made, but you have no control over it. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I've noticed too is that, yes, decisions they need some reflection, but often if you take too long, the resulting decision is not necessarily any better than had you done it quicker. And sometimes it's even worse because you waited too long, and once you made the decision, that option doesn't exist anymore because you waited too long. So there's a balance there, I think, to be had.
So good. I'm gonna pivot. Why do you think particularly performing artists have such a hard time to make a decision?
Well, I think, we have to go into the persona of the performing artist or any artist. I think we tend to be sensitive people. We're emotional and sensitive. And that kind of makes us insecure, partially because we're so emotional, we tend to take things personally. And so we tend to be averse to criticism, even though we say all the time, oh no, I want feedback. A lot of times people want the positive feedback, and so I think to make a decision and make a wrong decision, they take it on themselves as being some sort of failure, except that everyone in the world makes wrong decisions. I mean, everyone, even, that a lot of our idols make wrong decisions, so successful people make wrong decisions. I think the idea is to make as informed and intelligent a decision as possible, given the information that you have at the time, and you can't really do any better than that, so it gives you a better chance of being right, but it doesn't mean that you will always be right. And I think the sooner we accept that, the easier it becomes to make those hard decisions quickly.
Two things I want to say to that. Most successful people, or that we label as successful, are actually very quick in making decisions. That's one of their superpowers, because they're not wasting time, which is a non-renewable commodity that we have, on going back and forth. They're really, really quickly and pivoting and making decisions and being okay with the failure. And then another thing I would say is, I know we label artists as sensitive. I actually see it as a superpower that, allows us to tune in and to actually be a creative. Like for me, and I was labeled as sensitive all the time. Oh, you're so sensitive, you can't take any this and that. I think it also allows us to be empathetic. It also allows us to see things from different perspectives and perhaps see things that other people can't. I just wanted to.
Well, that sensitivity really does give us insight into different avenues of looking at a problem or looking at something. But generally, extremes of any sort are not good. So if you're only sensitive and you're not able to put your foot down, or not able to take any criticism, and when I say take criticism, I mean really take it, like really listen to it, really reevaluate yourself, ask yourself, is this critique valid? Instead of just saying, oh yeah, I understand, and then go away and go, Jesus, I can't believe they said that. Like really taking it, you're going to end up with, this, what we're talking about. You were talking about the inability to make that decision, the inability to react quickly, because we can always put off the decision till later, put off the problem. But the problem is that problem doesn't go away with time, and sometimes just gets worse. So I always teach the trying to balance the two sides of the brain, and I often say, if you look at the geniuses of the world, the people who have really made great strides in the world, the Einsteins and the Stephen Hawkings, they're often people who have very balanced artistic and Cartesian side. So, that work together. And that's one of the things that makes them geniuses, is that they can see things from a lot of different points of view, and very quickly, because they can just bounce back and forth between the artistic, the emotional, and the concrete and the logical without, in a blink of an eye.
Beautifully said. Okay, pivoting. Okay, so when I introduced you in the beginning of the show, there was a lot of achievements, Cirque du Soleil, and your own companies, and all the things that you have done so far in your life. But how would you describe yourself, you as a person, not your achievements, but who are you?
As a person, I think it depends on who you ask. Some people,
right?
yeah, some people will say, oh, extremely frustrating. I've been called many times, I've been called blunt, because I tend to say what I think, not insultingly, but if you ask me what I think of, say, your show, be ready for me to answer. I don't believe in the BS. I don't think, I'm the kind of person who doesn't feel that helps anybody, in any sense. I think if there are weaknesses, you're better off knowing about them. But at the same time, because I am blunt, when I do say something's good, that I'm not just saying that. I actually believe that. So it goes both ways. I think I'm kind of a cross between, I'm passionate, but I'm also reserved. I'm the kind of person who's comfortable in the forefront, and I'm also comfortable in the background. Like I can go into my hole and just stand back and just be with the rest of the team, or I can go out front and lead when I have to. And I guess, if I think back on when I was a kid, I didn't like being out front, except for dancing, and that was kind of my escape. I think it was the way I could go on stage and feel protected and just be able to be me. But in real life, I was very introverted, and so today I think that's a little bit more balanced. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm driven. I'm a fighter, not in the bad sense, not in the aggressive sense, but I will fight to make something work. And part of that might be the Asian in me, that we just want things to work. We want things to work out, so, and we'll do anything that it takes, but yeah, I guess that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Beautiful. What would you say your superpowers are?
So it's hard for me to say that, because a lot of things that seem very, very just obvious to me, I've only learned in maybe the last 10, 15 years that it's not necessarily obvious to other people. But I guess it would be the ability to take everything that I've learned, no matter what discipline, things that have nothing to do with anything else. Like, for instance, I studied physics in university, and I've always been in the sciences. I used to be good at math, but at the same time, a creator, artistic, choreography. I used to draw. I was a musician, composed, and all that stuff. And I guess the ability to find correlations between all of it, even disciplines that seem to not have anything to do with each other, I find that all of that knowledge just helps everything else. To give you an example, at some point I realized that I was good at marketing, and I was good at coming up with strategies and visuals and analyzing and analyzing. But a lot of that comes from, believe it or not, physics, because a lot of trying to figure out your audience is through scientific method. It's basically scientific method. And so whether it be physics, or whether it be chemistry, or whether it be marketing, it's the same thing. So everything helps everything else.
Oh man, you're touching on something. Thank you for bringing that up. And I didn't learn this until so many years past my dancing career, that everything is intertwined. And I believe, or I have seen and still experience that in the performing arts, we tend to think and believe that we're in this extraordinary bubble that doesn't apply to anything else, and we have to do the things our way, and it doesn't really connect to anything else that's out there in society. And the more and more I'm learning is that that is not the truth. Actually, quite to the contrary, that belief has actually held the performing way and back from evolving, because we're not asking better questions. We just stay into it within this gotta work harder, gotta do more bubble. And it only can be this way.
Yeah, I think it's our safe place. We're comfortable with things that we know, and that's human nature. I mean, that's not just dance. We're comfortable with things that we know, and in fact, that's the whole basis behind traditional marketing. Anyway, is the fact that everyone is comfortable with. They'll gravitate toward things that are familiar. And a lot of people think that TV marketing is all about, oh, you see your brand, and so then you're going to remember it. You go out and buy it, but it doesn't really work that way. The idea is to make you familiar with it and feel comfortable with a brand, so that the next time you walk in the store and you see it next to a whole bunch of other different brands, you're naturally going to gravitate towards that one because it's familiar to you for no other reason. And familiarity means you feel safer. You feel more comfortable with it. And that's what we tend to do, is we want to stay in our comfort zone. And so we'll try to do things within that comfort zone and try to tell ourselves that we're doing something different. But the truth is, to do the same thing over and over again, maybe do it on the left this time instead of the right, it's still the same thing. you know, a Toyota, a red Toyota, and, you know, and a blue Toyota are still Toyota.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about Choreography Online. Tell us, where did the inspiration come from? How was the process in launching it, and what's like one obstacle you're seeing, right?
So it all came from it, and you know, we were talking about how every discipline can affect other disciplines, and it actually comes from a mix between the competition scene and music. You know, being a musician, you know, done a lot of research into the music industry for another project that I had at one time. You know, and then later on going to see one of these big dance competitions, and I remember it was ballet competition. I won't say which one it is, but I was watching and they had a contemporary section, and I just realized that the contemporary, you know, you had these amazing dancers. I mean, these dancers were technically brilliant, and then they would do their contemporary, and the choreography was so bad for all of these kids, and I was like, this is, you know, we got so much talent here, and then you give them that to dance. And then one of my friends, who was one of the teachers, he said, well, these kids don't have the money to bring in a Killian or you know, an outside choreographer. It's too expensive. So they just grab whoever, you know, or they do it themselves. And, you know, I didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, that makes sense, you know, what to do. And then, you know, coming on the music, you know, the music industry, and realizing, you know, how the growing pains that the music industry had when the internet came in, you know, and Napster and people sharing, and the big the big labels were fighting against it, but the small labels actually didn't say anything about it, because what was happening was that the smaller labels, the independent labels, were actually making more sales because of the internet, the free sharing, because people were discovering their product. They were able to listen to it and enjoy it and say, this is worth buying. So the big companies went about it trying to sue everybody, and they ended up losing a lot of money and not changing anything until they finally realized that, you know, and in dance world, we don't tend to buy music, the rights to music. A lot of times we just kind of like take it, you know, because it's too complicated and too expensive. Like, they made it so complicated to try and buy the rights that it just got, you know, crazy. You know, people were just like, screw it, I'm just going to use it. And then, but now they have, you know, they finally caught on, and they made it easy to buy like a blanket license for a studio, and it just covers a whole bunch of stuff. So I thought, well, we have the same problem with choreography. I mean, if you want the rights to something, you've got to like talk to an estate, and then they're going to shift it to someone else, and then they're going to see, oh, we're going to charge them, you know, $10,000 to do one performance, and blah 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 blah. And so that's great for the big companies, they'll do it, but there are millions of little companies that could profit from doing a Killian piece, you know. And if it could be easier for them to just go online, buy the rights, and put it on, then, you know, first of all, the kids would get much better faster, you know. So I learned a lot about, you know, a lot of this also came from me observing how music teachers teach, like instrument teachers, you know, and you know, my kids are violinists, you know, and when they do a concert, even when they're little, they don't do a composition that their teacher did or that their best friend did. They do the great works. So are they going to perform it perfectly? No, but that's how they learn. But in dance, we get so overprotective and say, oh, if anyone buys my piece, they have to do it perfectly, and I have to cast it, and I have to control everything. That what happens is that people just don't buy your stuff. And so your dances are just not being seen, you know, and whereas in music they are, you know. So that's why music, I mean, the notoriety spreads much faster, you know. And I think the fear that choreographers have, we get into like the problems that I've had with choreographers, you know, trying to put their stuff online. Well, part of it's technological, part of it is also the newness of it. You know, they're not sure about it, or they don't want to go through the effort. But if some of them, it's also, well, I won't have control. But honestly, you know, if I take the music example again, and you look at, you know, a child orchestra playing Vivaldi, and they'll massacre it. It'll sound terrible, but I've never in my life ever heard someone listen to that and go, oh, Vivaldi's a horrible composer. People can tell, they can tell this is, it's not the composition that's bad. It's just that they're kids and, they're learning and it's coming out not so good, but that's how they learn. And I think the same should be with dance.
So why do you think choreographers are so protective and hanging on? Why is there so much fear involved?
Because that's the way it's always been. That's the way they're raised. I mean, it's just, we look at, if you look at the dance world, the way we do things, the way we do casting, the way we do, create pieces, the way we manage rights for those who even know what rights are, the way we train. I mean, not much has changed since, in the last 500 years. And we're the only, and, a lot of people might not like me for saying this, but among, I think pretty much all of the performing arts disciplines, I think we're the only ones who have remained the same for so long, who haven't really tried to push the envelope. I think, I don't think it's fair to say we haven't tried. I think that we just haven't. We haven't succeeded.
I think even when it was tried, it may have not resulted into the expected outcome. And then oh, well, I tried and now I'm gonna, if it doesn't work the first time, it will never work. We're not going back and analyzing and taking it apart, like what worked, what didn't work. We're just putting on a big blanket of it didn't work. And then we retrieve back to our comfort zone. And I think that is why any kind of business practices should be taken under consideration and apply, taking into an organization and how people are running their organizations, even how performing artists themselves run their own business, because at the end of the day, they're their own business, right? And we're not teaching it anywhere. We're not giving them that nugget. We're not giving them the power of that knowledge. We're just keeping them the same powerless into a box fitting artists that we as the industry can do whatever we want to with. And I think that's a shame.
Well, that's the artist persona. That's the artist persona, but it's the artist persona that we cultivate through the training, and this goes especially for ballet, but I would even say in hip hop in a different way, and I'll explain. So because in ballet we go in and the way we train ballet has always been don't say anything, just shut up and do what I show you. Do exactly what I tell you. And in hip hop, it's a little different. They don't say that. They want you to be individual, but you go in and basically all you do is learn combinations. It's like, here's a combination, and you just start learning steps. There's no training process. There's no, a lot of times there's no warm up. There's no understanding the body. There's no learning how to jump without hurting yourself. It's kind of just like, oh, we'll just learn the steps. And then you can be individual on top of it, but you're just learning steps. So with those two ways of training, both of them are about not questioning anything. Whereas if you're going to go into business, it's all about strategizing, and then trying to understand and do research to understand people. It's always about trying to understand people. And all of that is a process that requires constant questioning. And so if you spent your whole training life all the way up to 18, 20 being told not to question, nobody's going to just out of a sudden start being able to question and start being able to analyze. I mean, it just doesn't happen overnight, so it's not surprising. It's unfortunate, but I do think it's in the way we train them and the kind of culture that we built around dance and dancers and dance community.
It's about understanding people. That one sentence, let's lean into this. We don't do that in the arts.
We don't.
altogether. Like it's not only dance, it's in most performing arts organizations in the whole industry. It's not about people, it's not about the audience, it's not about the people that are producing the art. Is it about our egos? Is it about, what is it about? What are we making it about then?
I think it, well, in dance we tend to be isolated anyway, and we grow up with dancers, and we tend to, and there are always exceptions to the rule. There are even studios that discourage dancers from also playing soccer, also playing tennis, or also hanging out with whatever, and it becomes dance, 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 dance. And so we started to get this mindset that if it's not dance, then it's not going to be helpful to my dance career, and I don't need to know it, which is so far from the truth. That and it's very ironic that business is all about people, but artists are usually the one who are always talking about they do their art for people, but at the same time they're not usually the ones who delve into and try to understand people, so that you can and that's where you get the well, it's my art, I do what I want to do. Yeah, but you're doing it for people, so you also have to do what they want you to do. It's kind of it's a back and forth, it's give and take, it's a relationship. And the relationship between a performer and the audience, or creator and the audience, is always an us relationship. It's not a me relationship, because me and relationship are contradictions. So it's got to be us, but we tend to be about me. Does that make sense?
Oh gosh, yeah, so much. I mean, if I go back and I'm being really truthful, it was always on the outside about me. What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? Who has to give me something? Who owes me? But when we're talking about understanding people, I think this is the gap. This is why organizations struggle with getting butts in the seats, what they're calling, because we have moved so much away from understanding people and why we're actually creating art, why we dance, why we interact with people. And we're just doing, we're becoming somewhat athletes without the soul. And I experienced it not too long ago, students versus dancers that are part of a company. And the students, even though their technique wasn't refined, they fell down, they made mistakes, the lines weren't straight. I didn't care, because they carried so much joy, and their why they were on stage was still so strong and coming out, that it literally filled my cup for days. Where the ones that had a great technique, that were really established in the industry, didn't touch my soul at all. Didn't make
Yeah,
I didn't
I
even.
think we go through a weird process of like when actors train, and they say it takes 10 years for an actor to learn how not to act.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with dancers, but in a different way, in the sense that we go into dance for a reason, then after 10 years we get so good, and we forget why we started dancing in the first place. So we're actually forgetting, whereas the actor takes 10 years to realize that they had it all the time. We go in and we erase that, in that 10 years we kind of erase that, because and part of it comes from the old school power hierarchy. When the teacher is, and this is also, when we were talking about a relationship, the relationship between teacher and student should also not be a me. So a lot of teachers go in and it's all about me, and that's where the military atmosphere comes from. This is where teachers who like to just keep demonstrating over and over and over and again, they're not doing that so that you can learn it better. They're doing that because they want an audience to watch them. So when I remember one time, well, not one time, several times, when I'm working with dancers, not just in class, but sometimes in choreography or workshops or whatever, I tell them, I'm not here for me. This class is always about you. It's all about you. And my job is try to get you to be better than I ever was. That's what I want you to, that when you come out and I see you and you're dancing in a way that just kicked my ass, then I know that I've done my job. But I think most teachers are like, since it's about me, I want them students to be good, but never as good as me, never better than me, because I'm still the star. But if you're still the star, you shouldn't be teaching. You should still be on stage. If you want to teach, you have to get rid of that.
Thank you for bringing this into the conversation, because I think that is one of the biggest downfalls performing arts altogether actually have, is that we're bringing in the stars into either teaching positions or leadership positions to attract better donors or better choreographers, without actually understanding that they're completely starting over. A great dancer, a great artist does not equal a great leader. There is a long way or path of learning that has to happen, a complete switch of mentality. No longer is it about them, but it's about everybody else, and how to bring and harness the energy of everybody else to create something much bigger than they could have ever been. And that requires a lot of self-development, I feel. And we're not giving that opportunity, and we're not promoting it. We just put them in there and hope, it's gonna work.
Yeah, I think there's also an economic impetus behind it too, is they just want, because the kids, they're stars, and so the kids are following them. The kids just want to be in the class, but the kids don't necessarily know whether they're learning anything or not. I mean, that's what the teacher's job is, to know that, but teaching and performing, they're two completely different skill sets. Just because you're a good dancer doesn't at all mean that you can teach. You can give a combination, sure, anybody can do that, but can you teach? And can you, and I think that people forget that when you start to say I'm a teacher, the responsibility that you're taking on when you say that enormous, and you should never take that lightly, just because you want to say I'm a teacher. I used to, in auditions, see dancers, 18 years old, just graduated, and they go, hi, my name is Jojo, and I'm I'm a dancer, teacher, choreographer. And I'm like, no, you're not. A dance, you may teach, you may choreograph, but there's a big jump between I teach and I am a teacher. There's, it's a different skill set, and it's a big responsibility. It's the same with directing a company, or, everybody wants to be the boss. Everyone wants to be able to tell others what to do, but nobody wants the responsibility that comes with it. And without that responsibility, you cannot be a great leader. You cannot, if you're not willing to take that on.
I think we're misinterpreting what leadership actually means. We see leadership as managing people or telling others what to do, where that could not be further away from what leadership really actually truly is. And I think that's the opportunity where business 2022 and performing arts should meet and have a really good conversation and establish on how could we actually build a relationship that would propel organizations forward. So what do you see right now, and from your point of view, the biggest opportunity for performing arts is?
I think we've had this opportunity to discover the cloud, for one, which is something that, aside from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, this industry has been avoiding. I think it's scary for them, because it's all, you go online, and you have to learn a new app and learn a new thing. And first of all, you have to read, a lot to discover new things, and dancers notoriously are not crazy about reading a lot of text. And I think this has forced us to catch up. It's forced us to have to learn some of the things that, tools that are not necessarily dance related, but they are there and very powerful. It's forced us to learn a few of them. The danger in that is to let this, pass up this opportunity. And when we go back to normal, so to speak, than just go back to doing the same thing that you've always done, which is unfortunately what people are doing. I'm starting to see it. It's like, okay, we can take off the mask and we can go to studios. So let's just keep going exactly the way it was before. Well, there are some people that are going to realize the potential of the things that we've learned, and they're going to take it and run. But I think there's a whole industry that has to do that, not just a few people.
Yeah. And I think it will take a few big leaders, big as and courageous and loud, that are not shying away from the rejection over and over again, and just, pursuing what they believe in over and over and over again. I mean, we both are doing it.
And it's a painful process. I mean, and
Yeah, so
you fall down a million times and you fail and you freak out, and it's a lot of money out of your pocket, and I wake up, there are moments when I'm, on top of the world. I wake up and there's like hope, and we can conquer the world, blah 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 blah. And then others where I'm just like, what in heaven's name am I doing? I'm crazy. I'm gonna lose everything. But that's what it is. I mean, that's that. When we say, you to go on your own and do your own thing, you need to take a risk. That's what it is. It's not, well, I just need to fill out my grant application. I hope I get it. It's serious. I could lose everything, And then the thing is that because they don't understand that that's how it is, they don't understand how much that you put online of your own property, your own self, and that no, it's not a 5-day week. It is 7-day week, and you're working all the time trying to make things work. When someone succeeds and they start making a lot of money, they just see the money come in. They go, oh, he just sits back and makes all this money. No, you don't understand what that person had to go through to get there.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of understanding, and I think it's a lot of maybe just doing it. You realize what loss is. You realize what risk is when you actually do it, and how not easy it is.
Yeah, and I think, and I've lost everything once already. I know what that feels like. We have invested everything that we've ever had again into building Rise Media, and it's not going the way I wanted it to go, and being okay with being right there, not judging it, and being okay from the judgment from the outside is definitely a completely new level for me. So what I really want to say is that the path that we're taking and who we are becoming is not going to happen if you stay in your zone of familiarity and you just keep doing what you want to do. You will be sitting home and regretting perhaps, oh, well, they made it and I didn't. Well, I guess it's this victimhood of mentality that so many artists have bought into, that they're not responsible for their own path, for their own career, for their own life. Because we have taught, as when I say we, the industry, is that they have no control over it. It's all about luck. It's about who likes you. It's about who is going to pick you, who you fit best into. And that is, maybe that was like 100 years ago, but we have grown up. We've become so much more as human beings, as organizations, that I think it's irresponsible to buy still into this kind of belief.
Yeah, I also think that buying into that belief, it helps us to cope with rejection. It's like, oh, well, I have control. Oh, yeah, I think I do. And luck does play, a part. I mean, luck is there. There are a lot of successful people, successful businesses that got there through luck. It happens. But I think that, and this is another thing that I tend to say to people, is that no, you can't control who knocks on your door, or who you run into in the street and happens to be a big producer. But what you can do is you can arrange your environment and your life so that opportunity is more likely to knock. So no, it's not 100% your responsibility, but it's not 100% not your responsibility either. You have to do something to increase the chances of opportunity knocking. And the other thing too is that you have to have the intelligence to be able to notice when the opportunity is there. I wrote an article about where where are all the creative people, and one of the things I was saying is that everybody wants the creative geniuses in their company, and all these companies. I'm not just talking about dance. I'm not talking about performing arts. I'm just like corporations, companies. Everybody's looking for the hottest creative and brilliant talent, genius talent. But genius is, the definition of genius is these people who can see, who can analyze and see opportunities and connect the dots where other people can't. They can see things and they can understand things that other people can't. So then how are you gonna hire the genius? You have to think of who is going to hire the geniuses. So it's not just about having geniuses to hire. The person hiring has to be able to recognize when the genius is there, which means that the person hiring necessarily also has to be a genius. So when you look at the dancers, an opportunity, they also have to be, it's not just about being around the opportunity or about, a lot of it is creating your environment so the opportunity will knock or have a higher likelihood of knocking, but they also have to have that ability to recognize there's an opportunity when there is one. If you can't recognize it, then opportunity could 100 times and you're just going to miss it regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So if you keep focusing on all the things you don't have and the opportunities that have not shown up for you, you will continue not to see them because your mind's eye is actually focused on the lack versus on the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey.
And sometimes the opportunity presents itself not as a dance opportunity,
right,
but you have to be able to connect the dots and say, oh, this opportunity is going to help this part of my dance career. You have to be able to connect those dots.
Beautiful. Okay. Talk about dance competition. Tell us what's going on. When is it happening? How can people sign up for it? What's the process?
So yeah, the International Online Dance Competition. It's very simple, actually. There's an online form where you just fill out the pertinent information and you upload a video or you add a YouTube link. And that's pretty much it. And you pay your $5 or whatever, and that's it. But unlike other online competitions, it's not just okay, everyone submits and then you just wait a bit and then you just get an answer who won. So we do it a little differently. We collect all these submissions and then we do our first round of judging, and then we put it all online and we invite, everybody to come watch and the public and vote as well. And so, we get everyone who's a finalist competing again. So they're pushing to try to get those votes up as well. And so you get this sort of, and the idea behind this is that it's the, I was talking about the us, there is the me and then there's the us. And you try to see, well, what goes out and grabs the them. We already know the us. And when you look at my judges all come from very experienced backgrounds, and they might not be influencers, but they're more the teachers. They're the teachers that have, in the background and the ones saying, this is about you. Everything I do is about you. And they're very, they've been all over the world, and they're people too. So they're still in the dance world though. So they're still the me, The gallery that allows everyone to vote, that is where you get your audience, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, whoever, just normal people, some dance fans, some not. And they come in and they say, oh, this catches my eye. This touches me. This makes me cry. This makes me feel like this. And they can express that through a vote. And it just makes it exciting, makes something that's online and pre-recorded exciting. And that gallery voting period is intense. I've had people go, it was so incredibly tense, and I was so nervous, but that's what makes it exciting, And so then afterwards, when we finish judging in the background, we're judging the second round. The person who has the most votes gets a special influencer certificate, but it's a little more than that too. So when the judges, if we get into a tie and we can't decide between 2, 3, 4 people, then we look at the votes and we go, okay, we are all even on this. This is the us. Let's see what they think. And then in that case, in those ties, well, then it's going to be the votes that determine who wins, because it's the us and the them together.
Great. Awesome. So if that interests you, if you're a dancer, you're listening to this and you want to participate, all you have to do is go to
www.iodc.online. IODC for International Online Dance Competition. Yeah, without HTTPS. That's really important. It's HTTP, but yeah, and all the instructions are right there. The whole process, prizes, and how to do things. It's all written there.
Beautiful. When is the last day to submit?
Last day is June 8th.
Okay.
2022.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also have dancer stories up there too. We do interviews with a lot of the finalists, and we tell their stories basically, and you can see several of them. We have people from all over the world.
So this is not only a competition. This is for dancers a chance to be seen, to be exposed to a completely different audience that they have never been exposed to make connections, to build a network that they have not had exposure to before. So $5, I think, is nothing compared to what your potential ROI is.
Yeah, I think it's also, I do, because of my, our connections and people who are interested in doing stuff with us, and who know my background, and the background of the judges, and we have people come and actually do casting off of that gallery too. So there is a potential to getting it. So, I think most competitions are for pre-professionals or for children, and we do have children too, but what makes this a little different is that it is for professionals. We have a professional category, and those people do get seen by agents, by casting agents, by talent agents. We had celebrity cruises shopping for talent one time, and I can always shift people to, because the galleries, all those people who have competed, we have that information. So when people come to me and say, do you know a dancer? And I've referred some to actually the RWS. They're saying, they contacted me and they said, I need some dancers. And a lot of the dancers that I gave them on the list were from IODC. So, there are job opportunities as well. And, mention being in that finalist gallery, you're going to be seen by between 40,000 and 100,000 people. So it's a pretty good audience.
Yeah, that's a great audience. You don't get that in a theater. You get like
no, you don't.
1/10 of that, if maybe get 1% of it. All right. Let's assume your 16-year-old self would actually listen to the wealth of information you have gathered right now. What pieces of advice would you give him?
I would say, and the people who know me are going to laugh because I say it all the time, don't just work hard, work smart. Work smart. It's not about pure quantity. You can work till you're blue in the face and not get anywhere if you're not working intelligently. And working intelligently sometimes means you're actually going to work less, but you're going to get better results because you've thought it out and you've realized that, 80% of what I was doing before is just a waste of time and energy, and I'm not going anywhere. If I shift it and do it this way, I actually get there faster. So, and I think a lot of it too is learning how to, and this is a big one, time management, which is, I used to think was pretty obvious, but apparently it's not. So time management will change your life. I don't know what I'd say. It'll change your life. you know, the ability to do what a lot of people take 3 days to do, and you can do it in an hour. That's a game changer. It really is.
Everything. It's
Yeah.
everything, because that immediately will give you such an advantage point over anything and everybody. Really, truly. It's not the skills that you have acquired with your body. It's how you're able to do what others do in 3 days, you can do in one or half a day. Or, you know, I find it so intriguing that you bring that up, because I know, I think, I believe that time management is, or the lack of, is one of the biggest energy leakers and downfalls that we see within performing artists and arts organizations. I mean, think about how long are we taking sometimes to put things together, just because we're not really clear what needs to when happen, how it's going to happen. There's no follow-up. It's just, you know, the whole creative process is labeled as, well, it's just, let's see what happens. You know, it's creative.
Yeah, which is like gives you less than a 50-50 chance of putting out anything good.
Exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's I'm trying to think of how I want to say this, but you know, time management, a lot of it, you know, when you learn project management, you know, I've had project management training, but there's a way of managing projects that's called putting out fires. And that's where you're basically, emergencies are happening all the time, and you're just basically catching up, putting them out, and then the next one happens, you know. And it's, you know, I said this to a friend once about the way he was running things, and he started laughing. He goes, yeah. And I'm like, no, that is not a compliment. Is, you know, in project management, that's one of the things they tell you not to do, how not to run anything. You know, you always have to prepare and make sure that you know, that most things will not happen that way. But part of it is because we're in that mentality of putting out fires, we're always telling us, oh, I don't have time to learn anything else. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do this. Whereas, I don't know, my way of thinking, I tend to, and what I've always done is that if I'm doing something and it's taking too long, and it's, you know, even if I have a tight deadline, I will just say stop. I will take an hour, 2 hours to try to figure out a faster way to do it and a better way to do it. You know, if it's taking too long and it's being tedious, you always have to step back and say, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so you might lose 2 hours and say, like, we have a deadline, you know, in 2 days, and you just wasted 2 hours. Yeah, but I just learned how to do it 3 times as fast. And that knowledge means that every time I do this task, I will do it 3 hours faster every single time. So I basically not just saved the 3 hours, I've saved 3 hours every single time I do it for the rest of my life. So it's worth it to have paid that 2 hours in order to gain that much time. No.
And with that, it becomes an investment, actually. You know, it's not waste anymore. And just that tiny little shift of how we use language and how we're labeling things and how we think about things makes such a huge difference. I mean, think about it. How often do you hear them say, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy, almost wearing it as a medal of worthiness and you know, I made it. I'm so busy. Where when I hear that, I'm just like, oh, wow, you're not there yet. Like, you have a lot of work still to do, because busy is
figure it out.
Yeah, you haven't figured it out yet. And you have yet to tap into your full potential. Busy for me is just, that's right.
I mean, it happens. I understand you're so busy, but to be so busy that you have to let some like really important things slide, that doesn't really make sense. You know, when I was working at Cirque, I mean, we deal with, I mean, that artist database was what, 300,000 people, 300,000 people, you know, and I got messages all the time. You know, people contact me all the time, but no matter how busy I was, I answered every single one, all of them, some right away, some a little later. Sometimes I have to put it off a few days, but answer every single one, everybody. And the way to do that is just manage your time. Manage your time. And then the thing that technology has given us, it has given us a way to do that. It's given us a way to do it. And there's a book called Getting Things Done by Dave Allen, which is a great book. It's an old book, and it's a really good base to learn how to start managing time. But he has this rule that if something is going to take 2 minutes or less, do it right away. Just do it now. There's no point in putting off a 2-minute task.
No.
Just do it now.
So. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for reaching out. It really just filled my cup again. If you want to follow Rick, all you have to do is go into the show notes. There's like all of his platforms, all of his outlets where he can be found, what he is doing. Connect with him. I can highly recommend just reaching out to him. As you said, you always get back to people, no matter who, what, how, you always do. Thank you for what you're doing in the world. I really, really, truly appreciate you. Thank you for being so blunt. I think it's a superpower because ego no longer is your overhead. It's just, it's you at your purest, and I appreciate it. So thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.